Hey, this is Chris from Rekkid Talk. So this is kind of the conclusion to my previous vinyl finds video. So the previous video, which I put up a couple weeks ago, I talked about a trip I'd made down to some towns in Tennessee. I bought that Whipped Cream album by Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass. I scooped Vinyl Me Please by finding a under $10 copy of that Buck Owens and the Buckaroos live at Carnegie Hall. But there was a weird record I found, so I was in an antique mall in McKenzie, Tennessee. So this vendor had sort of like boxes of classic records on one side. Most of them were priced in sort of like the $4 to $15 range. And then on the other side was more of a bargain bin hodgepodge of records. So I looked through both. The Alan Parsons project that I showed before was something I got for $4 off of the classic rock side. And then on the other side was mostly junk. But I found this. So it's in Russian. Cyrillic alphabet. I paid $2.50 for it. I'm not yet sure whether or not that was a good idea or not. And so obviously, then if we keep looking at the record, you're wondering, oh, maybe there's something in English in some part of it. Well, no. There's some dude. There's a bunch of stuff in really small print. There's apparently the track listing. It's all in Cyrillic, so of course we've got some Roman letters, we've got some Greek letters, we've got some letters of their own. Basically, from what I've heard, is like about a third of the letters are what we expect. About a third of the letters are things that look like we're used to, but are pronounced differently. And then about another third of the letters, well, we have no idea what to do with. And again, if you keep looking, so apparently this was released in 1983. Something about 1930-1940. But as you can see, everything's in Russian. Everything's in Russian. The cover's pretty flimsy. The record didn't have an inner sleeve. Let's show you what the actual record looks like. And so I wasn't even able to look this up on Discogs at the store. So I had no idea if I was buying something that was secretly valuable or not. But it was very interesting just to think about, how does a record like this, which was obviously bought in the Soviet Union, seems like probably about 1983 or so, how does this end up in an antique mall in a box of like the usual random country and easy listening records? How does it end up there? Well, eventually I did find it on Discogs once I was able to actually try to figure out what some of the Cyrillic letters meant. And so basically it's by a guy named, oh, I had this written down somewhere. Let's see if I can find my notes on this. It's by a guy named Leonid Utyosov. If I'm probably mispronouncing his name. But apparently he was a big star in the Soviet Union, particularly in the 1930s and 1940s, singing sort of jazz songs. I literally haven't listened to the record yet. I'm actually going to let you guys listen to some of it as I play it here shortly. But it's supposed to be like jazz music, him singing. And apparently in the research, apparently he died in, I think, 1982, and then this was put out as a tribute album. And so I think this is essentially a compilation of some of his most popular works from the 1930s and 1940s. That's my understanding. I think he's the gentleman who's kind of standing there playing violin. And then you can see sort of you got people playing saxophones and tubas and trumpets and a piano player, an accordion player. So I'm guessing it's sort of like a big bandish sort of scenario. Let's see. Oh, and then the record label was called, that translates this up here, translates to Melodia. Apparently, that was like the Soviet state record label back in the day. So I'm going to go ahead and pause, and we're going to go ahead and listen to my mystery record. All right, so we're just about to put it on. My Leonid Utyosov, my mystery Soviet record. I think Moho, I think that means mono. It would probably make sense because the music's from the 30s and 40s. CCCP is, I think, their abbreviation for the USSR. There's all the song titles and presumably the songwriters in Russian. So let's see what this sounds like. All right, it's really scratchy, and I think that's from them trying to get like probably like what would have been like 40, 50-year-old records back then. Yeah, it doesn't really sound that good. He hasn't started singing yet. Yeah, so far this is pretty awful. This is sort of the opposite of audiophile. Oh, he's singing now. I'm going to pause for a second. Okay, so this is like a quick epilogue to the Soviet mystery record. So I played it. I don't really like it. It's not really my style of music. I bought it mainly to make this silly video. So Leonid Utyosov, or however you pronounce his name. So apparently he was a pretty big star in the Soviet Union. Some other things that I would like to mention about it is that the original price was 3 rubles, 50 kopecks. And to put that into consideration, a monthly salary was about 300 kopecks at the time. So that was a little over 1% of like your monthly take-home pay in the Soviet Union in the 1980s. And if you want to buy a copy yourself, you could talk to me if it's something you really want. There were some copies for sale on Discogs. All of the ones at the time I looked were being sold either by vendors in Russia or the Ukraine. They're actually all pretty cheap, so this is not like some secretly valuable restaurant. And in fact, the main thing you're going to be paying for if you buy it, if you're in the US or Canada or Western Europe, Australia, or South America, you'll be paying mostly for shipping, not really the record itself. But I don't think it's that good. I wouldn't pay shipping for it.